Hey everyone. Very sorry. So, I'm late. Let me tell you why. I I'm streaming in my office, as you can see. I'm in my office. Um, and I just went home to just eat a really quick dinner. And when I left the church to go back to my house, I accidentally left my keys inside my office. And so I had no way of getting back into the church. So I had to call Pastor Keith to come and let me in. He sent Amanda. Amanda came and she let me in. Now here we are. So I'm sorry. Lucas and Shante, glad y'all are here. Again, I accidentally left my keys in my office. Couldn't get back into the church where my computer is. Hello? Are we good? Okay. So let me know if you're here. Is the internet not working? What's happening right now? No, it's working. Is anyone in here right now? Or is my computer just not working? Let me know if you're in here. My computer is acting up a little bit. My computer is acting up a little bit. So I am live. Hey, Leah. How's it going? Right now it says you're the only one watching, Leah. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I know that Lucas and Shante were both here earlier. I messed up and locked my keys in my office and could not get back into the church. Hey, Shante. Hey, Lucas. Okay, y'all are all here. Good. I'm glad. Boy, was I panicking. But whatever. We're good. I was about to leave my house to walk back over. This was at like 6:52 or 5:52, I mean. And I went to grab my keys from the bowl that we keep our keys in, and they weren't there. And I realized, oh no, I left my keys in the office. But here we are, late but still going. So it's all good. It's all good. How are y'all doing? Has anyone gone outside the past couple of days with the weather being so beautiful? I mean, I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt, for goodness sake. That's how beautiful the weather is. Absolutely crazy. We played some disc golf last night, and the weather was beautiful. What did you do outside, Lucas? I also sat outside of my house and FaceTimed with Zach Taylor, or Texas as Aiden would call him. And we talked for maybe an hour, and then I just sat outside and was just sitting there doing nothing. And it was so great. Not hot weather is fantastic. I'll tell you what. What do you mean hang out, question mark? Are you asking me, or are you saying you aren't sure what you were doing and you think you were hanging out possibly? I'm not following you. Can y'all hear me? Lucas, can you hear me? Okay. Um, um, Ante said that she can't see me. Shante, am I good now? I've never actually started a stream late, so the website could have just freaked out a little bit. But it's definitely acting up a little bit. Am I like, is my movement not smooth to y'all? Because everything is a little laggy on my screen. Sweet. Yeah, this is all my fault. Because like I said, messed up and locked my keys in my car. So here we are. But we're live now, you know? And I think that is great. Lucas, why do you keep saying all the time? I am good. I had a good day. Let me tell you why I had a good day. First, me and Keith ate lunch together. Me and Pastor Keith ate lunch together, which was really fun. Second, I remembered that today was the 17th, and today is the day where the new island on the new Pokemon game came out. So I have more things to do in the game, which I know I might be the only one that cares about that, but it was still good for me. 3, I don't know. Oh yeah, 3, the weather's beautiful. And now 4, here I am with y'all, having a great time. Having a great time. Now, I still don't fully understand why my screen is a little laggy, but is there a 5? I don't remember which ones I said. I'm getting a phone call, and I need to take it. So give me 1 second. It was not a robocall. It was a call that I was expecting. I didn't know when I was expecting it, but I was expecting it. So I just had to take care of that. Thank you guys for hanging in there with me. Is anyone else in here? I saw that we had 4 at one point, but I don't. Now it shows that we have 3. Oh well. Yeah, but we're all good. It was not a scam call, which I don't know about y'all, but I've been getting considerably less scam calls since all of this has been going on. So that's a positive. Have y'all been getting less of those calls? Or is it just me? If it's just me, then I'll take it. But I would like it for everyone to have that same experience. Oh, now my mom is calling. Give me 1 second. Hello? Hey, what's up?
I didn't even know you went to get tested.
Yeah, I did. It's free in Athens, so I just went.
So you just went just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Okay, baby. Well, that makes you feel good. Did Conley go to you, or you just kind of went?
No, I just went, and then right, and then if mine was obviously positive, then she would have gone.
Right. Okay, sweetheart. Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm out walking, and I got your text, so I couldn't really text back.
Yeah, for sure.
See.
Okay.
I don't have my reading glasses on, but anyway, all right, baby. Well, good.
Yeah. All right. Did y'all get tested, or?
Daddy did.
Okay.
And then I think I'm gonna wait. Because I go to work and I don't have to see. I was there all day, so I didn't see one soul. I think Nana talked to her nurse about whether they should go, and her nurse said the longer you can wait, the better.
Yeah.
So I may wait. Daddy went today, and then I may just wait. And mine is I have to go away. I have to go to Greenwood and blah blah.
Okay.
So I may wait since I don't have any symptoms or anything like that and see what his is, and then.
All right, here we are. Sorry. So we found out this week that one of my dad's coworkers was tested positive for COVID. And I saw my parents on Sunday, and so I got tested on Monday just in case. No one else in the office had tested positive as of yet, and I just got the call from the doctor that said I was negative, so I do not have the virus. How about that? Yeah, me and Conley have been being very, very careful because of that. But now that it's come back negative, we're good to go. So I just had to take those calls. Hope you understand. But yeah, it's not a fun test. If you have not seen what the test is, they basically take what did you spell wrong? Oh, congarts. Thank you, Lucas. Congarts to you as well. They basically take something that kind of looks like this, but it's not wood. This is like a stir for a coffee. And they basically just stick it really far back in your nose, like probably like that far. And then they just kind of spin it and move it around and stuff, and they leave it in there for like 8 seconds. And my eyes started watering like crazy, like you know how sometimes when you get hit in the nose, you just like your eyes get real get really watery. My eyes got really watery, and then when he took it out, I started sneezing like crazy. Yeah, that's what it looks like. I agree. Yeah, it wasn't the most fun, but it really wasn't terrible. Like, it didn't hurt, anything like that. It just made you feel funny. It was unlike anything I've ever felt before. I I don't know. There was 4 people at one point, but I don't know if that changed or anything like that. Um, Kyle is texting me now. um, but yeah, Leah, I'm pretty sure is still in here, and then y'all two. So I don't think as of this moment, I think it's y'all 3. So we're partying in here. Leah's never been one to comment all that much unless I ask a question. And she is either on her mom's phone or computer. I'm not really sure which one, but it's one of the two. Or at least her account. I don't know. Because it's Kim. Yeah, she's still there. I'm glad. And I think the Van Lars and the Fords are hiking today. So I don't think the Aiden and Avery will be here. And then Natalie works a ton, so she's probably working. Who else is on here a lot? Champ, I don't know where Champ is. I didn't hear anything from him, but I know they've been visiting family a lot, so that could be a possibility. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where everyone is. Nick doesn't typically get on. He works almost every night at Texas Roadhouse because apparently Texas Roadhouse lost a lot of workers apparently a lot of people graduated and have decided to not work there anymore. And so he's one of the few managers that's left. And so he's having to work a lot and train people and just take a lot on his plate. So yeah, Williams with the all church, which is perfect. We miss him obviously, but that's all good. That's something that I want, especially the volunteers, to be able to join into things that are not youth as well. And I also, I mean, you guys know this, but I mean, there are certain weeks when the youth joins with the adults, and I think that that's a really good thing because we are one church body, and I don't want Green Acres Youth to be a separate thing from Green Acres Baptist Church, if that makes sense. We can definitely do a Zoom soon. I just need to plan it. Probably not this week with Father's Day on Sunday. We're gonna take Sunday off so that you can be with your family, not have to worry about hopping on to a meeting. But I am preaching on Sunday, which is really fun. And so you miss not having to type what you say. I understand that. But I am preaching, and so if y'all want to be at church on Sunday, I would love for you to be there. That would mean a lot to me. But obviously, if you can't be, that's all good. But I would definitely appreciate your prayers, just as I'm still preparing and just doing a lot of stuff to get ready. Geez, that's a lot of work. What has he been doing? Just for his job or what? I'm glad y'all will be there, Shante. It'll be good to see y'all from up on the stage. What has your dad been doing, Lucas? Just his normal job, or is he like working on stuff around the house, or what? Oh, he's a presentation. Gotcha. Yeah. When you have something to prepare for, you work a lot more than you normally do. Which luckily has not been the case for me as much this time that I'm preaching. But four. We're at 4 viewers. Who's here? But because of everything going on, I have more time now, and so I haven't been stressed about it. I've had plenty of time to prepare. I've known about it for, I mean, probably a month, so it's all good. Who dare? I hate working on like PowerPoint presentations and stuff like that. It's not a fun. That's not a fun thing for me. Dude, do y'all like this graphic that I made for Philippians? Oh, nice. Y'all are in the mountains? Heck yeah. That's awesome. That's super awesome. Who stinks? PowerPoint presentations? I agree. What y'all think about this graphic, though? I think it looks pretty nice. I'll tell you why I chose it in just a few minutes, but I think it turned out beautifully. I think it looks absolutely stunning. Yeah, the mountains do not stink. The mountains are awesome. Wait, the flowers stink? Why do the flowers stink? I've been trying to up my game on graphic design. There's an app that I use called Canva. I didn't draw them, but I created the graphic as a whole. I took the picture of the flowers and then kind of edited it a little bit. And then I chose a font that I thought looked good with it. But it's an app called Canva. It's pretty easy to use. But that's where I create all of the graphics. Every single one. I can show y'all here. I'll escape out of that, and I will show y'all everything that I have on here. So you can do logos, you can do a poster, a presentation. Presentations is mainly where I do it, but this is all the graphics that I make that you guys see all the time. Some fun ones in there, some funny ones, some old ones, some stuff that didn't make it through because they weren't good. But I've gotten much better at it, I think. So hopefully y'all do too. I don't know. Let me make this big again. Give me 1 sec. It's loading. My computer's going a little slow right now. I don't fully know why, but here we are. It is what it is. Yeah, it's pretty good. It can be kind of hard to use at first. Yeah. So Accio Basket. If you don't know, Accio is the spell in Harry Potter where you say Accio and then you say whatever it is you want, and then it shoots over to you and you can grab it. And Conley and Macy are huge Harry Potter fans. You guys probably know that already. But Macy, she needed a new putter in disc golf, and there's a website that allows you to customize what a disc looks like. And so I created that graphic. We were just doing words to put on a disc. So now when she's putting, it's like Accio basket, and then the putter goes into the basket. We thought it was clever. Whatever. But yeah, Canva it's a good, it works really well. Obviously there's a free version and a paid version. The free version, it gives you access to a lot less. But I've never really had any trouble with finding things that I could use. But yeah, I really like it. I think it's really good. You can look up photos, you can look up drawings, you can look up videos, fonts, as many fonts as you could imagine. And it also gives you templates that you can use and all of that. But yeah, it's a good app. You can get it on your phone. I use it on my computer for the most part. But it works really well. And they even let you add YouTube videos into Canva presentations and just everything like that. So I like to use it. Conley's actually really good with it too. So is Kyle. I've gotten Kyle and Conley to help me with a lot of the stuff that I do. So yeah. I still have these blisters from playing golf. This is not a fun one, because even though it is it's a few days old, it's deep enough that when I wash my hands or I get in the shower, it still gets really wet and gross. So I have to, it's just gross. And then this one, you can hardly even see anymore. You can see it right there, but it ain't bad. I've never tried to do anything stop motion. I don't think I would ever want to. I don't know if I have the patience to do anything stop motion, but I don't know. Might just be me. Yeah, exporting stuff can be super annoying, but it is what it is. So I know that with the services that we were doing and sending out to the church, not the live ones that we're doing now, but the ones that we've been doing for the past couple of months, we shoot on Keith's phone, and I think we might have the same one. I'm not exactly sure, but you can shoot in 4K. like the highest quality that you can have. And it looks fantastic. And all of the videos look so good. But at the same time, it makes it really annoying to upload and to process and do all those types of things. It can be rough, but I think it's worth it. It looks really good. Hey, Aiden, how's it going? Did y'all get back from hiking? Y'all were hiking, right? Or something? I think I saw Cameron post some pictures on ye old Instagram. Dude, Aiden, listen to this. I accidentally started the stream late, right? And that was because I was working on. Got back from biking. Gotcha. Biking, hiking, they rhyme. So I was basically right. But I was in my office preparing, and then I walked over to the house to eat some food before I started the stream. And I'm streaming from my office, and that's what my plan was. But when I was about to come back to the church, I realized that I had left my keys in my office. And so I couldn't get into the church, so I had to call Keith. And Keith sent Amanda to let me into the church, and now here we are. It was funny, I think. I don't think Leah left. Sometimes the number that it shows is not right. Sometimes it's just not right. Shantae's still here. Was biking fun, Aiden? I know it probably felt amazing, didn't it? Ah! My nose was itchy. Yeah, I figured everyone was still here. Sometimes the number just isn't right. Like most of the time, it says we only have like 4. Well, it's mountain biking, isn't it? Isn't that the point? Do you guys want me to do this in a mask for the rest of the time? I forgot I had this in my back pocket. Because since I was still waiting on my test results, I was wearing masks a lot. Do I look cool? Or do I look scary? Or do I look like a duck? More hills than normal. Where was it at again? I did. Yeah. I did. And it came back negative. Healthy as a horse? Is that the saying? As healthy as a horse? I don't remember. But yes, I'm good. So, Shantae, if you made me a Pokemon mask, I would pay you and all of the dollars that I have in my wallet, which is 0. But I would buy you mini meals. That would be so fun. Okay, healthy as a horse is right. Okay, good. I didn't want to feel dumb about that, but I was like, I don't know if that's right. That doesn't quite feel right, but whatever. It is what it is. Aiden, do you know if Avery's hopping on or not? Because we could probably go ahead and get started on this if Avery's not going to hop on. Also, getting tested in Athens is free, which is good. Okay, y'all are together. Good. All right, well, let's go ahead and hop into this. Also, just for the next few weeks as we're going through Philippians, if I say Ephesians, just hang with me. We've been in Ephesians for so long, and So I'm very used to saying Ephesians. But hopefully I can get my mind on Philippians right now. Hey, Avery and Melanie, glad y'all are here with us. But yeah, if I accidentally don't say Philippians, don't get mad. I meant Philippians. I didn't mean to say Ephesians. It is what it is. But we are starting with Philippians today. And just like we did when we started Ephesians, I don't know if you guys can remember this far back. I'm trying to, when did we start Ephesians? Wait, let me look at my handy dandy sermons and messages folder. I don't know if I put the date on these. No. Wait, maybe I did. Okay, so what part of Ephesians is this? Okay, so the very first week that we did Ephesians was January 21st. January 21st. So we started Ephesians basically 5 months ago and just finished just a couple of weeks ago. Which a lot of that had to do with COVID. We would have finished much earlier, but if y'all can remember that far back, what we did in the very beginning of Ephesians was we looked at Paul's time in Ephesus. We kind of talked about why did Paul choose to write a letter to the Ephesians, and so we're going to do that tonight, and we're going to look at really why Paul chose to write a letter to the Philippians. And so if you have a Bible with you, I hope you do. If you would turn with me over to Acts chapter 16. Now, Paul's time in Ephesus was much longer than it was in Philippi. And the experience was also much different as well. And so I think that as we look at really what Philippians is about, we'll realize, oh, well, the stories were a little bit different, and the reasons for writing were a little bit different. And so that'll kind of be clear. And then after we do that, I'm going to show two videos, one from the Bible Project. We watch those every time. I think that they're so helpful. But then also another video. What's the guy's name? I can't think of his name. But he does a lot of Bible studies and things like that on YouTube, where he goes straight through books just like we do. And he has a really good intro video that I like a lot. So we're going to be in Acts chapter 16, and we're going to read verses 12 through 40. So I'm going to do that really quickly. It really isn't that long. It sounds longer than it is. But yeah, I'm going to start in verse 12 of Acts chapter 16. From there, we traveled to Philippi, a Roman colony and a leading city of that district of Macedonia. And we stayed there for several days. So right off the bat, we see that in Ephesus, Paul was there for almost 3 years. Almost 3 years building relationships, building up the whole entire church. But here we see that Paul was only here for several days. So there's difference number one right there. And then verse 13, on the Sabbath, we went outside of the city gate to the river, where we expected to find a place of prayer. We sat down and began to speak to the women who had gathered there, who had gathered there. One of those listening was a woman from the city of Thyatira named Lydia, a dealer in purple cloth. She was a worshiper of God. The Lord opened her heart to respond to Paul's message. When she and the members of her household were baptized, she invited us to her home. If you consider me a believer in the Lord, she said, come and stay at my house. And she persuaded us. So, big difference here. in Ephesus, Paul started out in the temples where the Jews were. Now I don't know if there was no Jewish temple here for him to begin to preach with, or for him to begin to preach at, or if he just decided to do something different this time. But we see here that rather than starting in the temples, he chose to just go out to places of worship, which doesn't necessarily have to be temples. And he finds a group of women that had gathered, and it says they were believers in God. And we know that this is talking about the God that we serve, because in the Bible, anytime it talks about any other gods, they are lowercase, unless it's giving like a name of one, like Baal or something like that. But it says that they are believers. But just like as we read in I think it was 1 Corinthians, when we went through 1 Corinthians, we understand how you can believe in God, but you can also not have the full story, and that's not their fault. This is a time when information is not just available to them on their phones. This word has to spread. People actually have to go to other places. They have to walk, they have to sail, they have to ride on a horse or whatever it is for the message to get there. And so it was much different. But these women met them, and this other woman named Lydia, her and her whole household were baptized. All right, now in verse 16. Once when we were going to the place of prayer, we were met by a female slave who had a spirit by which she predicted the future. She earned a great deal of money for her owners by fortune telling. She followed Paul and the rest of us, shouting, "These men are servants of the Most High God, who are telling you the way to be saved." She kept this up for many days. Finally, Paul became so annoyed that he turned around and said to the spirit inside of her, "In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to come out of her." And at that moment, the spirit left her. When her owners realized that their hope of making money was gone, they seized Paul and Silas and dragged them into the marketplace to face the authorities. They brought them before the magistrates and said, "These men are Jews and are throwing our city into an uproar by advocating customs unlawful for us Romans to accept or practice." The crowd joined in the attack against Paul and Silas, and the magistrates ordered them to be stripped and beaten with rods. After they had been severely flogged, they were thrown into prison, and the jailer was commanded to guard them carefully. When he received these orders, he put them in the innermost cell and fastened their feet in the stocks. About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying. Now, this is a story that a lot of you may be familiar with. But about midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the other prisoners were listening to them. Suddenly, there was such a violent earthquake that the foundations of the prison were shaken. At once, all the prison doors flew open and everyone's chains came loose. The jailer woke up, and when he saw the prison doors open, he drew his sword and was about to kill himself because he thought that the prisoners had escaped. But Paul shouted, "Don't harm yourself. We are all here." The jailer called for lights, rushed in, and fell trembling before Paul and Silas. He then brought them out and asked, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" They replied, "Believe in the Lord Jesus, and you will be saved, you and your household." Then they spoke the word of the Lord to him and to all the others in the house. At that hour of the night, the jailer took them and washed their wounds. Then immediately he and all his household were baptized. The jailer brought them into his house and set a meal before them. He was filled with joy because he had come to believe in God, he and his whole household. When it was daylight, the magistrates sent their officers to the jailer with the order, "Release those men." The jailer told Paul, "The magistrates have ordered that you and Silas be released. Now you can leave. Go in peace." But Paul said to the officers, "They beat us publicly without a trial, even though we are Roman citizens, and they threw us into prison. Now do they want to get rid of us quietly? No, let them come themselves and escort us out." The officers reported this to the magistrates, and when they heard that Paul and Silas were Roman citizens, they were alarmed. They came to appease them and escorted them from the prison, requesting them to leave the city. After Paul and Silas came out of the prison, they went to Lydia's house, where they met with the brothers and sisters and encouraged them, and then they left. Pretty crazy story. And as we said, as we read in the beginning, they were only there for several days. And they were only there for several days because they got thrown in prison. And then the government was like, hey, y'all got to get out of here. So a couple of things just about Philippi. Actually, the videos will describe them pretty good. But this is Paul's history in Philippi. He was there. He met some believing women who then took Paul and Silas back home to their communities. And their houses were then became houses of belief. They began to follow Jesus and were baptized. And as we see in the last verse, before they left Philippi, Paul and Silas chose to visit Lydia and the other women and their families so that they could encourage them and build them up. So that when Paul and Silas ended up leaving, which may have been for good, they could be strengthened and be able to stand on their own without Paul and Silas there. And then the other reason why Paul is writing this letter to the Philippians is going to come from Philippians, actually two parts in Philippians, but the first one is going to be from Philippians 2:25 and then Philippians 4:18, and they're basically the same thing. But those verses say this. This is verse 25. But I think it is necessary to send back to you Epaphroditus, my brother, co-worker, and fellow soldier, who is also your messenger, whom you sent to take care of my needs. And then chapter 4, verse 18 says this. I have received full payment and have more than enough. I am amply supplied now that I have received from Epaphroditus the gifts that you sent. They are a fragrant offering, an acceptable sacrifice, pleasing to God. So the church of Philippi loved Paul. Paul was their pastor. Paul was the one who brought the gospel to them. And so they wanted to make sure that Paul was taken care of. And so what they did was they sent a guy named Epaphroditus, who was one of their pastors as well. We read that he was like a co-worker of Paul, basically. And they sent him to take resources and money and anything that Paul might need so that Paul could continue to minister to others. Now, Paul was actually in prison when Philippians was written, but we're not exactly sure which imprisonment it was, but this church was making sure to take care of Paul, and so Paul decided to write them a letter. And so that brings us to the two videos that we have. Again, the first one is going to be the Bible Project video. So sit back, relax, and watch this video, and then we'll watch one more after that, and then we'll hop off.
The church in Paul's letter to the Philippians. The church in Philippi was the first Jesus community Paul started in Eastern Europe, and that story is told in Acts chapter 16. Philippi was a Roman colony in ancient Macedonia. It was full of retired soldiers, and it was known for its patriotic nationalism. And so there, Paul faced resistance when he was announcing Jesus as the true king of the world. And after Paul moved on from there, those who became followers of Jesus continued to suffer resistance and even persecution, but they remained a vibrant community faithful to the way of Jesus. Paul sent this letter from one of his many imprisonments, and for a very practical reason. The Philippians had sent one of their members, Epaphroditus, to take a financial gift to Paul to support him in prison. And Paul sent back this letter with Epaphroditus to say thank you and to do a whole lot more. The design of this letter doesn't develop one single idea from beginning to end like many of Paul's other letters. Rather, Paul has arranged a series of short, reflective essays or vignettes, and they all revolve around the center of gravity in this letter, which is a poem in chapter 2. It artistically retells the story of the Messiah's incarnation, his life, death, resurrection, and exaltation. And then in each of these vignettes, Paul will take up key words or ideas from that poem to show how living as a Christian means seeing your own story as a lived expression of Jesus' story. So Paul opens the letter with a prayer of gratefulness, and he thanks God for the Philippians' generosity, for their faithfulness, and he expresses his confidence that the life-transforming work that God has begun in them will continue into greater and more beautiful expressions of faithfulness and love. And Paul then focuses on their obvious concern at the moment, which is his status in prison. Being in a Roman prison was no picnic, but it paradoxically has turned out for good to advance the good news about Jesus. So all of the Roman guards, the administrators, they all know that Paul's in prison for announcing Jesus as the risen Lord. And his imprisonment, it's inspired confidence in other Christians to talk about Jesus more openly. And Paul's optimistic that he will be released from prison, but it's possible that he could be executed. And as he reflects on it, that actually wouldn't be so bad, because for me, Paul says, life is the Messiah. And so dying would be a gain. For Paul, his life in the present and in the future, it's defined by the life and love of Jesus for him. And so if he's executed, that means he'll be present with Jesus, which would be great for him. And if he's released, well, that would mean he could keep working to start more Jesus communities, which would be better for other people. And so that's what he hopes for. And notice how his train of thought works here. Dying for Jesus is not the true sacrifice for Paul. Rather, it's staying alive to serve others. And so that's Paul's way of participating in the story of Jesus, to suffer in order to love others more than himself. Paul then turns to the Philippians, and he urges them to participate in Jesus' example by taking up this same mindset. He says, your life as citizens should be consistent with the good news about the Messiah. So these Christians in Philippi, they were living in a hotbed of Roman patriotism, but their way of life was to be shaped by another king, Jesus. And that might bring persecution, but they are not to be afraid, because suffering for being associated with Jesus, it's a way of living out the story of Jesus himself. Which leads Paul into the great poem of chapter 2. It's rich with echoes of Old Testament texts, specifically the story of Adam and his rebellion in Genesis 1-3, and the poems about the suffering servant in the book of Isaiah. This poem is worth committing to memory. It is a beautifully condensed version of the gospel story. So before becoming a human, the Messiah pre-existed in a state of glory and equality with God. And unlike Adam, who tried to seize equality with God, the Messiah chose not to exploit his equal status for his self-advantage. Rather, he emptied himself of status. He became a human. He became a servant to all. And even more than that, he allowed himself to be humiliated. He was obedient to the Father by going to his death on a Roman execution rack. But through God's power and grace, the Messiah's shameful death has been reversed through the resurrection. And now God has highly exalted Jesus as the King of all, bestowing upon him the name that is above all names, so that all creation should recognize that Jesus, the Messiah, is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. Now, that last statement is astounding. Paul's quoting from Isaiah chapter 45. It's a passage where all creation comes to recognize the God of Israel as Lord. Paul's point here is very clear. In the crucified and risen Jesus, we discover that the one true God of Israel consists of God the Father and the Lord Jesus. And so for Paul, this poem, it expresses his convictions about who Jesus is, and it does more. It offers the example of Jesus as a way of life that his followers are to imitate. And so that's why Paul immediately goes on to tell two stories. First about Timothy, then about Epaphroditus, because they are both examples of people living out Jesus' story. So Timothy's like Jesus because he's constantly concerned for the well-being of other people more than his own. And Epaphroditus, who the Philippians sent with their gift, he ended up risking his life to serve Paul in prison. He got so sick he almost died trying to help Paul. But God had mercy on him and Paul by sparing him the loss of a friend. Paul's point here is that these are the kinds of people who are living, breathing examples of the story of Jesus, and they are worthy of imitation. Paul then turns to his own story as an example. So those Christians who had been demanding circumcision of non-Jewish Christians, remember his letter to the Galatians, these people are still stirring up trouble for Paul, and they keep reminding him of his own past, when he used to persecute Jesus' followers, when he tried to show his right standing before God by his zealous obedience to the laws of the Torah. But like Jesus, Paul has given up all of that status and privilege. He now regards all of it as filth, and the word he uses is actually much less polite. He's given it all up to become a servant, like Jesus, to participate in his suffering and sacrificial love. And he does all of it in the hope that Jesus' love will carry him through death and out the other side into resurrection. So Paul says that for followers of Jesus, their true citizenship is in heaven, which for Paul does not mean that we should all hope to get away from earth and go to heaven one day. Rather, heaven is the transcendent place where Jesus reigns as king. And he says we're eagerly awaiting our royal Savior to come from there and return here to bring his kingdom of healing justice and transforming love to bring about a new creation. Paul then challenges the Philippians to keep living out the Jesus story. He first addresses two prominent women leaders in the church who worked alongside Paul, and they're in some kind of conflict. And so Paul pleads with them to follow Jesus' example of humility, to reconcile and become unified. Paul then urges the Philippians not to give in to fear, but despite their persecution, to vent all of their emotion and their needs to God, who will give them peace. And that peace, Paul says, it comes by focusing your thoughts on what is good and true and lovely. There's always something that you could complain about, but a follower of Jesus knows that all of life is a gift and can choose to see beauty and grace in any life circumstance. Which leads Paul to his conclusion. He again thanks the Philippians for their sacrificial gift, and he wants them to know that his imprisonments, that his times of poverty, that these are not true hardships for him. They've actually become his greatest teachers, showing him that no matter his circumstances, he has learned the secret of contentment. It's simple dependence on the one who strengthens him. Paul has come to see his own suffering as a participation in the story of Jesus. The letter to the Philippians gives us a unique window into Paul's own heart and mind. He saw his entire life as a reenactment of the story of Jesus. And you can sense in this letter his close connection to Jesus, his awareness that Jesus' love and presence is closer than his own skin. And that's what gave him hope and humility in his darkest hours. And so Paul shows us that knowing Jesus is always a deeply personal, transforming encounter. And that's the kind of Jesus that Paul invites others to follow. And that's what Paul's letter to the Philippians is all about.
All right. So, really good video, obviously. You guys know about those. But let's actually watch this one as well. This guy does really well with simplifying everything and making it to where really anyone can understand what he's talking about. So this one is shorter as well. So check this one out too.
Hey guys, I'm so excited because today we start our very first book study ever on The Beat. Stick around, that's coming up next. Hey everyone, my name is Alan Parr. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. Here on The Beat, we release a new video every single Tuesday, but today is Friday and we're going to do something a little bit different. For the next 4 Fridays, we're going to be studying the book of Philippians together. Why the book of Philippians? First of all, because it's a short book. Second of all, it's easy to read. And finally, it is packed with all sorts of practical application. All right, so before you ever study any book in the Bible, it is critical that you do your research, you do your homework, and you check out the background of that book. So here we go. First of all, the church was located in a city called Philippi, and it was founded by the Apostle Paul on his second missionary journey in AD 49. Now, somewhere along the line, Paul gets thrown in prison, and then as a result, somebody sends a word or a message back to somebody in the church at Philippi, and they get word that Paul is in trouble. At which time, they now send one of their major leaders in the church, a man by the name of Epaphroditus, and they send him from Philippi to travel some 800 miles to go check on Paul, who is now imprisoned in Rome. So Epaphroditus arrives in Rome and visits Paul in prison and communicates three things to him. First of all, he gives Paul a financial gift that demonstrates the church's love and appreciation for his investment in their lives. Second of all, he reports to Paul on the condition of the church, any issues, any troubles, any concerns, any questions that they may have for him. And then finally, he wants to communicate to Paul as clearly as possible that this church loves him, they are concerned about him while he is in prison. And so in response to this visit in prison by this major leader in the church named Epaphroditus, Paul then handwrites what we know today is called the book of Philippians, or the letter to the Philippians, puts it in Epaphroditus' hand and sends him back to Philippi to hand deliver his message to the church. So what did Paul write about, and why did he write this letter? Number one, he wanted to thank them for their generous financial gift that the church gave him. Second of all, he wanted to update them on his situation to let them know, hey, I'm in prison, yes, but you know what? God is getting the glory. Everything is okay. And then the third reason is that he wanted to give them spiritual wisdom and guidance as their pastor. And then finally, he wanted to let them know that he loved them, he was concerned for them, and that he was consistently praying for their well-being. The major theme of the book of Philippians is joy. As a matter of fact, 16 times, either the word joy, rejoice, or some version of that word is mentioned in this book, which lets us know that it is a major theme. And the idea here is that Paul is writing this letter from prison, indicating or letting us know that even though your situation or your circumstances may not be that good, you can still experience true, authentic, and genuine joy no matter what you're going through. So guys, by next week, your assignment is to read Philippians chapter 1. I hope and pray that God will speak to you and that you would join me on this journey of studying the book of Philippians. If you found this video helpful in any way, feel free to share it with a friend. Also, if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button above. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so I pray that you will read along with me. Leave your questions, comments, thoughts, observations in the comment section below every single Friday. Hey, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on The Beat. Hey guys, I'm so excited because today
I just want you to go to the next slide. There it is. All right. They did go over emptying himself in the American Gospel movie. I agree. Great movie. Did you finish it, Lucas? Did you get to finish the movie? There's also a second American Gospel, but you can't watch it for free on anything. But I'm sure that it's pretty good. All right. So Philippians, it's such a good book. It's really encouraging. It's a little bit different from a lot of Paul's letters because he's not really doing any correcting or rebuking or really much teaching, as it were. He's really just encouraging the Philippians, hey, like, you guys are doing really well. Like, I'm just gonna preach to you some things that I'm sure will benefit you to rehear from me, but keep doing what you're doing. Like the book of Philippians, every church should want to receive a letter like the church of Philippi did, because it is so encouraging. I'm sure it was a blessing for them to have, and the only reason that was the case is because they were truly living out their lives for Christ, and so they're a great example to us of how we should be as well. So I'm really excited about starting it. I'm really excited for you guys to read it along with me. I haven't split it up into a number of sermons yet. I'll probably be doing that this week, just with sermon prep and everything like that. I haven't given quite as much thought to it as normal, but I'll get there soon. Yeah, I'm glad you guys hopped on. I'm sorry that I was a little late because I left my keys in the office. But I'm glad you guys hopped in. I'm gonna close this out in prayer really quickly, and then you guys can get along with your days. All right, Lord, thank you so much for today. Thank you so much for giving us the example of the Church of Philippi that shows us how we are to care for others, that shows us how we are to live our lives as the church. Lord, to even show that you can start a church, you can start a movement, you can change people's lives in the most unexpected places, in the most unexpected ways, as we see with a group of women starting this church, basically with Paul, and then through being in prison, Lord, you brought others to yourself. Let us never forget that you are a God who can do all things. Lord, be with everyone who's watching and everyone who's not watching, everyone who may be watching later, Lord. I pray that they are doing well, that they are seeking after you, Lord, and that you are just shining your light on their lives. Lord, we love you so much, and it is in your name that we pray. Amen. All right. Thank you guys for hopping on. I will see you guys later, maybe on Sunday, if you'll be at church on Sunday. If not then I don't know. But like I said, we're not going to do a Sunday afternoon live stream because it is Father's Day. I want you guys to be able to hang out with your dads and be with them and celebrate them. If you want some Sunday school, the church does Sunday school every single Sunday morning at 8:45. So hop on that. It's always really good, and it's always a very encouraging time. We're learning about heaven, which is just such a fun topic to learn about. So maybe see you guys there. If not, I'll talk to you guys very soon. I love you guys so much, and I'm gonna hop off now. So I'll see y'all later. Bye.